everyone for joining. I'll just get this off the screen just now. So thanks everyone for joining, especially in the heat of today. As I was saying before, very, very warm up in Scotland today. So you'll be happy to hear that. I probably won't keep you too long today. What we'll go through is just some of the new features that have came out in the new release of Sage 200, which is 2021 R1, and it's mostly going to be around the new web forms that they've brought out. So we'll get on to that in a wee second. For those who don't know me, my name's Tom McEntee. I am one of our account managers at Eureka Solutions, so look after some of our Sage 200 customers. If it's not myself, it will be my colleague Stephen that looks after you guys. I'm just looking through the participant list. I don't think any of mine are actually on today, so it's all Stephen's today. So I don't know if they've maybe just get sick of listening to me. So we've not got any of my customers on, but that's who I am. So we'll make a restart just now. Alrighty, so what we're looking at today is the new version of Sage 200, like I just said. So probably set the scene and probably why are we doing this and why are we showing you the new features? Well, we're actually looking for people to upgrade to Sage 200 for basically your benefit. So there are a lot of benefits of upgrading Sage 200, and not just because of the new features that we're going to see today or new features that have come out in previous releases. There are a lot of reasons why you should probably consider upgrading. I've had a wee look at some of the participant lists. I think most of the people on the call today are on newer versions, which is great. So when I say newer versions, probably talking around 2018 and beyond. So that's great. So what we'll look at today is the newer versions coming out in the 2021 version. But some of the benefits of upgrading, and probably the main one that we're going to just focus on just now, is that top point, being fully supported from Sage for that extra level of support. Now, when I say fully supported from Sage, that's what I mean. So it's fully supported by Eureka Solutions, no matter what version of Sage 200 you're on, so please don't worry. But when Sage support runs out, that means that there's no extra support from Sage. So in those rare occurrences where our support team needs some support from Sage, they will not give any support for unsupported versions. So being on the latest version ensures that you're fully supported by Sage. If you have got any queries in terms of your version and what version you're on, and if it's supported when it runs out of support from Sage, please just speak to your account manager. They'll be more than happy to speak to you about that in terms of when your version may go out of support. This includes the new Tls Protocols. So many of you, or probably everyone who's on today, will have received some form of communication from ourselves, whether that be from our marketing team or your account manager, on the retirement of some of the Tls protocols, so 1.0 and 1.1, all very technical, but they all does relate to the software in some way. So it's going to have an effect on Sage 200 going forward. Now, the actual cut-off date for this is actually in 2023, but Sage have been very insistent in saying that this can be brought forward at any time if they feel there's any security risk to Sage 200 from these changes. So we are very much recommending that anyone that's on a version below that of 2020 looks to upgrade as soon as they can, just to avoid any doubts or any changes that come from Sage. So nothing really to worry about or panic about. It's not till 2023, but just because Sage have left the door open in terms of that coming forward. So being on the latest version like 2021 R1 just ensures that there will be no complications or anything around the TLS changes. As I said before, if there's any questions around the TLS changes or any of the communications that you've received from our marketing team or from your account manager, please just speak to your account manager. They'll be more than happy. Myself or Stephen will be more than happy to go through any of the upcoming changes and what that means for you in terms of upgrading. Some of the other things are likes of bug fixes. So any bugs that they've seen in previous versions will all get taken into account for new releases. Just means that you don't have to worry about any small bugs in the system that have been found. and the newest legislation. So MTD is probably a bit outdated now, but even more kind of Brexit related information has been added to and functionality has been added to Sage 200, particularly in the last release, and that will continue to be added as well. And that final one is access to new features that are based on customer feedback. So what we're going to look at today is some of the web portal changes that have been made, but any change to Sage 200 that comes is all based off customer feedback. So it's not a case of Sage just adding what they think will work. It actually comes from ideas that Sage customers have actually wanted in the system. So for example, a few releases ago, I think it was 2018, there was a big clamour for adding in document storage into Sage 200. So that was one that was then added. The invoicing module was another one. So I think a lot of the customers we've got on today will have the invoicing module, but that didn't used to be. That was another one that was based on Sage feedback. So everything that we'll see today and everything that gets newly added to the new releases of Sage 200 is all based off customer feedback. Alrighty, so Eureka add-ons for Sage 200, these will all be tested and all will work with the newest release. So the likes of the Plus Pack, Sales Order Plus, I know some of the people we've got on today will use some of these, any bespoke that we can do, data exchange, and then also that bottom one here as well, Cloud Data Exchange, which is our newest integration platform. Will work with the newest versions of Sage 200 going forward. So if there is any need for integration between your Sage 200 system and outside applications such as e-commerce platforms like Amazon, BigCommerce, WooCommerce, etc., we've got connectors out the box for Cloud Data Exchange in order to connect Sage 200 to the relevant third-party sites, whether that be e-commerce, whether that be anything else. So it's just to make you aware that all the add-ons for Sage 200 that come from Eureka Solutions will all work with the newest version of Sage 200. Alrighty. Okay, so enough of the presentations. What I'll do just now is hopefully come out of here. Can everyone see Sage 200? Can someone give me a wee nod, yes or no? Should be able to see Sage 200 on the screen at the moment. If not, please let me know.
Yeah, we can.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you. So, as I say, most of what we're going to look at today isn't actually in the Sage 200 platform. So it's actually going to become in the web forms. So there's not been too many changes aesthetically or any new features added in this release for the desktop platform itself. Now, what I'm going to focus on today is new features for 2021 R1. If there are any that you want to see from, say, 2020 releases or 2019 releases, 2018 releases, whatever releases of Sage 200 you need, please just let me know after the demonstration today, and what we can do is actually set up another call, or I can send over more information and we can actually look at some of the new features that have maybe been added in previous versions. We have done webinars on those before that should be available, but please just send me an email and I'm more than happy to take you through any of the new functionality that's maybe missed today or maybe missed from previous releases. Alrighty, so what I'm going to do is go to the recog and actually going to show the web portal. So probably not many of you have actually seen this before, so we'll go and have a wee look at that just now. Similar to Sage 200, the desktop version, when we log into the web portal, we need to choose what company we're going into. I will just choose our test system. So basically what this is allowing you to access Sage 200 features from within a web browser. Now, I just accessed that through the desktop version. That's one way that we can get to the web forms of Sage 200. You can undo this externally as well. So one thing that we'd probably want to point out is that there are some prerequisites that have to be in place for you to do that. So I went through there, as you saw, through the desktop, but if you are just coming through, say, a browser with no access to Sage 200, you will have to have some prerequisites. So, for example, a Microsoft 365 account, because that is what's used to actually connect Sage to the online web portals, and that will That will also have to be linked up to the Azure Active Directory. So these are some of the things that will have to be taken into consideration. So before using this, please don't worry your account. If you are really looking to use this functionality after upgrading, your account manager and also our technical consultants will make sure that all the prerequisites are there. We'll make sure that you know what the prerequisites are before you go and use this, because what it is designed for is basically accessing Sage data, changing Sage data, probably more primarily using a web browser rather than having access to the desktop app. Now, the reason for this is there's a plethora of them. Probably the main one is the last year or so has maybe highlighted it to Sage more than ever, that people need access to information from anywhere. So the last year, probably the last 18 months as time gets away from us, it's been challenging in terms of people working from home, getting used to new working environments, just working in a completely different way than we're used to. So Sage have obviously realised that, and they're trying to modernise the Sage 200 product and trying to get more of it as accessible as possible. So in doing that, they've opened up the web portal, which is where you can start to do a lot more of your day-to-day work from an actual browser. Now, as we'll get into, it's not Sage 200 online, it's not a full version of Sage 200, but there are 31 new features that I have added to the web portal, so that we'll go through some of them in a second, but it is just on an attempt to modernise the system and make sure it's more accessible so you can get your data from anywhere and make changes to that data from anywhere as well. Alrighty. So that's a wee bit of background. As I say, if there's any questions, I'll obviously be around at the end for any questions, but if there is anything burning that you've got questions on, please just come off mute and we can ask away. If I don't know the answer to it today or right this minute, I will certainly get you an answer probably by the end of the day. So if I don't know the answer straight away, I'll certainly get it to you as soon as possible. Alrighty. So now that we've logged into the web portal, you can see it's actually similar in a way to Sage 200 opening page. So if I just go back to the desktop version for a second, you can see it's got all these different places. We can go to Sage City, etc. So I'll go back to the web portal for now. So you've got the access to Sage City, see the roadmap. So the roadmap, meaning the roadmap for Sage 200. So some of what's coming in later versions, etc. So that's all very, very accessible from the landing page, but that's probably not the main features of today. Alrighty, so as you can see down the side, we've got our usual views. So we can see the sales ledger, the purchase ledger, nominal ledger, cash book, stock control, and sales order processing. So we'll go through these to see what we can do on the actual web portal itself. So we'll start in the sales ledger, and we'll just go to our customer list. Similar to what you see in the desktop version, you can do much the same thing. So this is exactly what you would see in the desktop version of Sage 200 that you use day in, day out. It's the same list. You can amend the lists. You can do everything that you can do in the desktop version. So if I just click on these three things here, and I can change the columns, so I can start to add in. I've got the credit limit on just now in balance. That's because that's what I've got it to in my Sage 200 desktop version. But I can start to add different columns in here. And what that will do is just add in more information on the customer based on your Sage 200 desktop system. So I've added an account manager, which is actually in actual fact one of the analysis codes that I've used. So you can add that. So this is the same as you can do in the Sage 200 desktop app. So the powerful functionality of the lists. Most of it comes across to the web portal, which is great. Gives you quick information. So, for example, if you were out at on a customer site, hopefully we're all getting back to that way of being that we can actually go out and visit customers. After the last 18 months of probably doing it via Zoom, like we are today. So if you went out at a customer, you can quickly get information on that customer straight away without having to phone the office, etc. You can get that at a touch of a button on your web device, laptop or an iPad, etc. So what we can actually do is start to add new customers. So we can do this from. So traditionally, you would only really use when you're looking through the likes of workspaces. So when I say workspaces, that's what we had before as the kind of main web application for Sage 200. So these are some of them here, some of the things that we could do in the web and using the Sage 200 workspaces. So if I go to the sales ledger, you can see there's just, all you can see really is the list and some transaction inquiry screens. But now using the web portal, if I just go back to the web portal, you can actually add new customers and amend existing customers all from the web. So if I go to just change, let's see, we'll change quality kitchens, for example, and we'll just amend this customer. Alrighty, so there might be something that you want to change. You're sitting in front of them at a customer meeting. They've said there's a new contact been added. That's absolutely fine. There's a new CEO, there's anyone, so we could add that in. It's Mr. Brooks. I'm just leaving the middle name just now, and we can add that in. And that's us added a new contact and amended that customer, all within the web portal, nothing without access to the desktop application. So if I just save that, that will be a new customer added, a new contact added to that customer. And it doesn't have to be contacts, it could be anything that you've got linked to that customer account. So for example, any trading information, payment terms, etc. can all be added. Alrighty, so let's go back to the customer list and we'll look at some of the other things that we can do. Just to show you that will update, I'll just go into Sage 200 again, and we'll have a wee look at our customer list. Now, I'll have to remember what one I just changed. I'm sure it was quality kitchens, but we'll have a wee look and just to make sure that's been added in okay. As you can see, we've got a new contact now on the desktop system, Mr. Adam Brooks, and that just shows that it will all update as it would normally on Sage 200, as if you were using the desktop app. So that quick adding of information will run straight through if you're using the web portal. So no lag of information or anything like that, no waiting for the customer to be updated for the other staff that are maybe needing that customer account, all very quick and does it seamlessly. Alrighty, so that's the first new thing you can do is add new customers. So it could be a whole new entire customer, just going through the usual process of adding a new customer like you would in the desktop app, and that will all be added to Sage 200. Also still get the help files as well. So I'm a big advocate for the help files. When I started using Sage, I used them all the time. So we've still got them there. There's still the question mark. I'm not sure for people in that people on this call, if anyone uses them. I'm a big advocate for them. I think they're really good. They are still there. So if I can just try and get this away, I'll just bring this down a wee touch because I don't know how to get it away. Excuse my lack of Zoom knowledge. So what you can see is here, I click the question mark and now I have got help for not the Sage 200 desktop create new customer, but actually the web portal help itself. So it's very, very intuitive. It will go straight to the web portal help page, straight to show you how to create a new customer, amend a new customer, or view customer accounts. So you've still got that help there if it is required. Alrighty. So I'll just come out of that again and just go back to our customer list and we can see other things that we can do. So what we can now do from the web portal is actually put in transactions for the customer. So we could add an invoice, a payment, a receipt, or a credit note, all from the web app. And that's without having to go onto the desktop again. Again, we could just go in, say we've got an invoice for a customer. The screen is very, very similar to what you'll see in the desktop app. In fact, it probably looks slightly better, to be honest, in terms of how it looks and how visually appealing it is. Same process. You've got the same warning signs that you would get in the desktop app, which is great, and you can just do all your invoicing, all your payments, receipts can all go through the web portal. So no need to then wait to go back to the office or ask someone else to do it. That can all be done within the web portal. Another thing that you can do straight from the customer list is actually change the status of a customer. So for example, if I wanted to change the status of Cute and Cozy kitchens, and I'm out on site, I need to immediately put this customer on hold. I've had a call saying they're not paying invoices. So we need to get this customer on hold as soon as possible. So we can change the customer status using the web portal straight away by going on to the web portal. We can change that to on hold. We can also hide them as well as you can in the desktop version. We can change that there. Righty. I don't know if there's someone unmuted. I think I'm muted now. That's great. The last thing we can do, well, not the last thing, there's two more things we can do from the customer side. We can look at transaction inquiries. So if we're out a customer, we can see previous transactions, previous invoices that they've had. And also we've got price inquiries as well. So if we want to see, for example, Abbey Retail, and we're out at Abbey Retail, we're in front of the customer, they want to know what they normally pay for a certain item, for example. So we'll just say they want to know how much they pay for the blender. We can see that the selling price is £45. This customer gets a £4.50 discount, so they pay £40.50. Just gives quick accessibility to key business information, all from the web portal without having to be at your desk with Sage 200 open in front of you, all to give you that information straight to hand. All right. So that's from a sales point of view. The purchase point of view is fairly similar in terms of what they've added. So again, if it's from a supplier side, we've got the features there to create a new supplier. We can amend the current supplier that we've got if we want to change any limits of etc. The locations, anything like that can be changed from the web portal. So again, just giving you immediate access to the information. We can also do transaction inquiries like we could on the sales side, and we can also change the status again of that supplier. So much the same as what you can do from the customer side, but again, all to give you that information without having to actually be in the office on the desktop version of Sage 200. Alrighty. One thing probably to bear in mind, and it's one thing that I'm actually going to just double check again with Sage, is the license type that you will need for this. For just now, we're under impression, and again, I'll check again with Sage. We are very much still learning everything about the new version, but we do think it will be a full user access license that you'll need. Now, the reason for that is some of the things that you can do. For example, creating a new customer, creating a new supplier, we'll come on to creating a new stock item, etc. is all things that are based under a full user license, as opposed to that web user license, which is used for purchase requisitions and authorising purchase order requisitions, etc. This will actually need a full user license. As I say, we'll get that all ironed out for you, just so you know exactly the license type you need, because it will take up one of your user licenses. If someone does log into Sage 200 via the web portal, it will take up one of those licenses. All right. Okay, probably the next place we're going to go then is the stock control module. And again, there's a lot of information that information, but a lot of functionality that they've added to the actual web portal. Again, saving you from going into the desktop version to do things like this. So as we've seen before, with adding new customers and adding new suppliers, we can actually add new stock items from the web portal itself, and we can amend stock items as well, which might come in very handy for when you're out on site. So if we just amend this item, for example, again, we can change anything we want to do with it. So for example, locations, we can add locations, we can say where it is. So you could be standing in one of your warehouses, you've spotted that there's none of this left. We can then change the stock levels, we can then change the locations, we can change who's the supplier of these items. So everything that you can do within the desktop version of Sage 200, you can now do it on the online web portal, which just again gives you immediate access to information on your stock, which is always very good to have. Obviously, depending on the industry that you work in, but it can all be changed within the web portal itself. All right. Not just that, we can actually transfer stock as well. So we can transfer stock from one warehouse to another, similar to the transfer screen that you've got in the usual version of Sage 200, your desktop version. It's the exact same. Again, it's probably more intuitive in terms of how it looks, in terms of getting you from A to B getting stock from one to another. Again, if you're in warehouses, you're working in the warehouse, it saves the faff of having to go back to the office to do all this, saves paper being used to do all this. You can just do it from an iPad, etc., giving you that more, giving you more functionality, basically at your fingertips rather than having to go back to the desktop version. So that's another thing that we can now do from the stock control point of view. Just go back, there's one more we're looking at. We'll go back to our stock list, and we can actually manage the stock take now. The whole stock take routine can be managed from the web portal. Now, this is something that a lot of our customers use to manage our stock take as a stock take routine within Sage 200 Desktop, but this should save a lot of time and probably a lot of paper as well, I would imagine, by doing it all at a touch of a button and doing it on, I'd say, an iPad or a laptop when you're actually with the stock. Probably will make it a lot more easy to do. So, for example, we can start entering a new list, so a new stock list. The actual routine itself, so the stock take routine, doesn't change. Exact same as how it would work in Sage 200 Desktop version. The functionality remains the same. So if you're used to using the stock take routine in Sage 200 Desktop, then please don't worry, it's not changing in any way. It's just allowing you to do it on this web portal rather than being logged in at your desk doing it. So you can enter the values very quickly, very easily, view any adjustments, create all the new lists, amend the lists, and showing the completed stock takes. Probably one of the better angles of functionality that have actually been added. So as I said at the start, there was 31 new pieces of functionality that were added to the web portal, and this I would suggest is probably going to be one of the most popular ones if I was to take a wild guess at it. So we've already been in the sales order processing side. Unfortunately, not yet can we put sales orders on from the web portal. I would imagine that is something that has been looked at. I'm not a Sage developer, but I can probably imagine that is something they're looking to do. They are looking to keep adding to this web portal functionality. Some of the other things that we can do is add new nominal codes. So we can add new nominal codes. Again, nominal list, change all the variables on the list if you please. We can add new nominal codes. We can amend new nominal codes. And we can also do transaction inquiries. Just like we could do on the supplier side and the customer side, we can also do that from a nominal perspective as well, and drill into transactions that way. The final piece of information, or the final part of the web portal itself, is the cash book. Now, for your bank accounts, what we can do within the web portal is, again, transaction inquiries. Now, that's pretty standard for the online versions or even from workspaces. But what we can start to do now is add purchase payments, sales payments, and sale receipts and purchase receipts to your bank accounts. So again, allowing you to actually interact with the system from a web perspective rather than just inquire on information. So always before it was inquiring on information, but now it's actually been able to do more with that data in terms of manipulating it, changing it. So for example, adding new customers, adding new suppliers, stock items, changing stock items, changing customers, all before you would have to do within the Sage 200 itself, but now you have got the access to the web portal, which hopefully some of you will get some good use out of if you were to upgrade. So that is a quick whistle-stop tour of the web portal. As I say, it's going to be added to further, I would suggest, in later versions or later versions of Sage 200 when they do get released. So this is very much an early stage. The one thing, again, I'll just point out is to get this done externally. So for example, you're out at a customer site like I was alluding to, there are some prerequisites that we'll just need to make sure that you've gotten already. So for example, Microsoft 365 account being one of them, connected to Sage. So we'll make sure both our account managers and our technical team will work with you to make sure that if you are looking to use these, that you've got the relevant prerequisites, and if you don't, look at how we can help get it all set up for you. So that's just one thing that we do want to make you aware of just before if you were to upgrade and wanted to start using them, just to make sure that you were aware that that is the case. All right. So again, I did say it would probably be a wee bit quicker today, so it does leave time for any questions that you may have. I'm looking at the chat. I've got one. Someone, I didn't even see that, but I did think that someone would ask that question, the full license of the web license. So for just now, as I said, I think we are pretty sure it will be a full license that's needed, just because of some of the functionality that's included within the web portal now. So again, I will check that with Sage. So that was the last time I spoke to Sage, because I had the exact same question. Why could this not be on the web user license? So I will just double check again, just to make sure, and make sure we get back to you with the relevant information. But as I say, pretty certain it will be the full user license that you'll need for these web forms, just because of some of the functionality that's been added. With a web user license, you can still get access to the workspaces, for example, purchase requisitions, etc. So they can all be added. I think we've got another question. Yes, absolutely. You'll be able to restrict access. So it'll all be based on the role. So what role I'm in just now is open to everything. So thanks very much for your question, Dean. So yes, as you can do in the desktop version, you'll be able to restrict access, so not everyone will be able to do certain things. So it just all depends on the role, and we'll make sure that everything's set up in the correct manner for you if you were to start using this going forward. We'll make sure that everyone's in an appropriate role, etc. As I say, today I'm in a role that's got access to absolutely everything on Sage 200, so that's why I've got access to everything, but we'll make sure that that can be adjusted for you. All right. Okay, so if there are any more questions, please do just let me know. If there is no other questions from me, thank you again for joining, because I know it's a very, very warm day, and it's been a lot to probably take in terms of new screens, etc. So thank you very much for joining. And if there are any questions that you do think of, or that you look at once you come away from today, please just email your account manager or myself. I probably know a lot of you guys already from support, etc. So if you do have my contact details, please just send me across an email or your account manager, and we'll get any questions that you've got answered. But if there aren't any more questions, I see there is one in the question and answer, so I'll get that answered just now. But if you guys don't have any other questions, thank you once again for joining. It's been a pleasure, and if there's any questions at all, please just send them across to your account manager, and we'll get them all answered for you. If it's to do with upgrades or the new version or anything, like I said before, any new release features that you've maybe not seen from previous releases, just let me know, and I can show you them on a call or send you across more information. But thanks very much, guys. I'm just going to answer this last question.